Hello and welcome back to another CreekCast. I'm Brooks Carter, joined by head football coach Drew Carter. It's been a couple months since you've heard from us last on this forum, and I hope everyone has had a good spring. It's been a little different from the perspective of what we've had really the entirety of the football program being at Coahulla Creek. I know Coach Carter and I talked a little bit about that, I think, back in March or April about how we wouldn't be having spring practice in the traditional sense. We had a middle school spring practice this year, which was, I assume, a successful experience, would you say?
Very much so. It was well received by the kids and the middle school coaches alike. So we were excited about the results of that. And it's one of those things where you're not going to be able to see the immediate results of it. You know, it's going to be one of those things where it's an investment in the future, and we have to keep telling ourselves that. And hopefully it's going to pay off here in the next few years with those guys.
Yeah. So with that, this is I know about the scrimmage situation. Are you able to get more practices in now over the summer comparatively to like I know you get how many days in the spring if you opt for spring practice?
You get 10. So basically, you get 9 days of practice, and then the 10th would be your scrimmage
Scrimmage.
day. So it doesn't really affect our what we can do in the summer. We just get that extra fall scrimmage, which we just thought, with evaluating our team and our players, looking back to last year, that it would be an advantage for us to have that extra live scrimmage right in front of our season. Feel like that would have us more at game speed, game reaction, those kinds of things going into week one. Because, we're double A school, our numbers aren't great. When you think about being able to go ones versus ones at practice. So we've got to take advantage of, team camps through the summer and having an extra preseason scrimmage to get ourselves used to that game speed.
Yeah, I mean, you want your acclimation to look more like that closer to the season. So that makes total sense from an August perspective. But with that, summer has looked a little different from the standpoint of this is your first time getting to see these guys in kind of a practice capacity. Whereas, like here starting in June, whereas previously had been April and May, you had kind of gotten them out on the field and gotten a chance to look at them in certain ways. But you're probably 3 weeks into the summer here. You've had a couple of 7-on-7s. We had one at home with Gordon Lee, Gilmer, Ridgeland, and Southeast Whitfield, and then we went on the road up to Bradley County in Tennessee, and I believe it was Bradley Central and a really, Boyd Buchanan, two really high quality programs up in the Tennessee area. Bradley took a little bit of a step back last year, but that was after like back-to-back region championships. So they had a really good class and went 13-1 in 2023. And then Boyd has played for and maybe even won a state championship in recent years. I want to say is it Gary Rankin, that's their
Yeah.
head coach who built. Well, I wouldn't say built. I don't want to. I don't want to. I want to give John Reed some credit. Rome's head football coach. John Reed started the powerhouse at Alcoa, and Gary Rankin took it to another level. Yeah, I think if you don't know anything about that, just Google Alcoa football in Tennessee. They've won, I don't know, like 15 of the last 20 state championships in their classification. But nonetheless, that's who we were going against. So some really, really good talent at that 7-on-7. What was your overall perception of both of the 7-on-7s? Did you see any progress between the first one and the second one?
Yeah, it's like you said, the summer's been different because it is our first time seeing us together as a team, but us not having spring forced us, which we planned it this way, to be more intentional through the winter and the spring, knowing that we weren't going to have those 10 practice days of spring practice. So it was more drill work, more meeting type time, more film from correction from last year. So now we've been out on the field a few weeks. We've seen us in some live competition with 7-on-7, and I'm seeing the progress that we really wanted to see. Guys look more comfortable where they are. they're reacting to things because their fundamentals are more sound and they're more familiar with our scheme. We've been able to adjust our scheme to our guys' strengths. And I think we're seeing all those things come together. And it's exciting to see that type of progression just in the month of June.
Yeah, a couple of the one that we had at home. I was looking through the film, and I want to say second or third play out on offense. Big long touchdown pass from Waylon to I think it was Tyler
Yeah,
up the seam there. Beautiful ball. Tyler made a great catch in traffic. That's the kind of stuff that gets you excited
yeah,
for the potential coming this year. And I think going against good talent, if you're projecting out. Um, there was a padded camp that just took place at Chattooga that I know Southeast Whitfield was at. They've got a new coaching staff, and I've heard that they're very hungry. They've got a different attitude, so I'm sure you got probably a pretty decent look from them. Ridgeland's a program that's hungry and trying to get back on a winning track. You got Gordon Lee and Gilmer who have been in the playoffs each of the last few years. Gordon Lee's even projected to be potential region champ in their region this year. They got a ton of talent back, so I'm sure they gave really quality look from a 7-on-7 standpoint, and then really good talent from the two teams we talked about up in Tennessee with Bradley Central and Boyd Buchanan. That's what you want this time of year is getting good competitive looks from opponents.
yeah, 100%. And our guys not backing down from it. The guys we've talked about being able to lean on and the returning starters. I mean, we could just go down the whole list. There's too many of our guys that we can list that are returning starters at this point. But the way that they're attacking that and their confidence level when they go out there, we go play Boyd Buchanan, who's a double A private or whatever class they are, state runner up, and we're not backing down. We're going out there and executing. We're flying around, and we look confident in what we're doing. So that was encouraging to see. But I've seen that all throughout. And you ask what's the progression between the first and the second. It was a pretty big step, and I can't tell you how many times I've told our coaching staff when we've come off the field, not only from our drills and practice, but from those two 7-on-7s. Man, we were leaps and bounds ahead of where we were last year. From install standpoint, we look faster, more confident, like I keep saying. So all the signs are pointing in the right directions for our guys.
One thing that just stuck out to me too is you're talking about, install and just familiarity with the scheme and whatnot. Obviously, having a ton of players back helps with that, but retaining your entire coaching staff also helps with that. The players are very familiar with the coaches, and the coaches are very familiar with the players. And I imagine not having to forge new relationships and that type of thing. Really, everyone can grow as a team, and that includes the coaching staff.
Yeah, and there's a lot of layers to what you're talking about. Obviously, the relationships with just, the coach and the player as people being the number one thing. And then that allows everything else you just mentioned to kind of go from there. But when you talk about it from a football perspective, we understand what makes the kids tick, what buttons to press, and then obviously their strengths and weaknesses to go along with that. And then, all that kind of establishes a trust and relationship both directions. And I feel like it's going to allow us to be more successful. And then ultimately set our guys up to be successful players and teammates, which is going to positively impact our team.
Through interviewing several of our players here the last couple of months, as I've done these player spotlight series that with articles and some highlights from several of our returning starters. All of them that I have done so far have been rising seniors, guys who will be. I think all of them have been will be 4-year players in the program. And just the mindset and the mentality is these guys are hungry and they're eager to prove themselves and rebound from what happened last year. What has that what does that translate to on the field? How have you sensed that as the head coach of just the eagerness and the mindset that these guys are trying to carry coming into the 2025 season?
Well, I think number one is how they approach each day. There's a level of seriousness that they approach each day with that's a little different than what I've seen. And that's huge because, from that, every single rep is better. So they're improving from that. I think the second part of that is the fact that they are on the same page and that they feel like they're in this together. They went through the valley last year together, and there's a tighter bond amongst those guys. And they're there to support each other and take this team to the level that I think they want it to go.
Yeah, I know. I think I asked you this a couple of years ago when you were. I think it was our first formal sit down interview as you as head coach, and as I was we were kind of getting this whole kind of media deal going with the football program about how your experience as a player building a program that had literally no success. I wouldn't even say like we've had a small sample of success so far at Coahulla Creek while trying to build this thing out. When you were in college at LaGrange College, you hadn't even won a game. You had no success. Do you remember, like as a player, that probably made your bond tighter too? I'm sure you can relate to that.
Oh yeah, because there's so many layers to what was going on there. I came in year two. I went 0 and 10 once. Those guys that were a year ahead of me, they went 0 and 10 2 years in a row, and being basically a bunch of freshmen and sophomores playing against juniors and seniors, redshirt seniors. So the age gap and experience gap was huge there. But yeah, having to go through that because we did stay hungry and we knew that we had some ability. As long as we did do that, then some success was going to come. But there's a fine line there, I feel like, because you've got to address the elephant in the room and you got to use it to stay hungry. But it can't be one of those things that's weighing you down and negatively affecting your confidence of what you can do as a player and as a team. And that's kind of where we are. It's you use that as the right kind of motivation, not something that's going to create doubt.
Yeah, so that kind of gets us up to speed where we've been here over the months of May and June, and looking forward now to the rest of the summer before we'll start cranking it up in August. We've got obviously Dead Week coming up, which is I always think timely, especially it's Dead Week for all GHSA sports. You have several sports that are doing stuff over the summer. Obviously, basketball. I don't really know what baseball does, to be honest, because their season just ended. But you have a lot of fall and winter sports for sure that are doing stuff over the summer. I think soccer has a camp, like a kids camp, and some practices over the summer and stuff too. But everything's dead. But I bring that point up to I always thought it was very timely for football, especially because you're building. It's almost like a bye week in the middle of your the highest point of your off-season training. So that'll be nice to get a break and allow everyone to kind of take a breather before coming back. And I'm sure it'll ramp up even more from a level of intensity after that. But we've got a padded camp coming up after the dead week, and I always enjoyed those as a player. You and I both used to go down to University of West Georgia for what was, that made boys men down there, and it maybe won't be quite that level of competition that Coahulla Creek will be participating in, because you probably won't see the Camden counties and the Mill Creeks and the North Gwinnett's of the world like we did when we were down there. But it'll give everybody that first glimpse of like here we are, like where are we at from a physicality standpoint and an execution standpoint.
Yeah, and I've echoed that to our coaches a few times. We've got to have a mission and specific things that we're looking at when we go into this. Because like we know what Chevy Joyce can do. Like we don't need to go down there and have him in every rep and get him injured.
Yeah.
That number one of these things is you want to come out of those injury free. There's some luck involved in that, but we got to be ahead of the game with as coaches and have a specific plan with that. So getting some of those guys that are new starters or maybe some guys that are going to be key subs is going to be a big thing. And then, those guys that are returning guys, we need to get them some good solid reps and, see how they have progressed. And that's the word that we talk about when I meet with our coaches when we're talking about drills and fundamentals and how our scheme is progressing is the word progression. Are we progressing past base fundamental stuff to the point where we're able to apply those in game situations and we're making plays? And that's where we want to see our guys start to be game speed and being physical and applying those things to actually making game type plays and not just doing it on a dummy or on a sled.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also as a football player, there's also the element of let's put the pads on for the first time and go hit somebody, which has also got a different level of excitement. You
And
know,
that's exciting too because I've had multiple of our guys asked about that. Coach, we're going to a paddy camp this year. Like they're ready to go with it. They're excited for the opportunity, and kind of use that as a measuring stick midsummer, and have ourselves ready to kind of springboard into August.
yeah, and I mean, and it creates a situation where you're not putting the pads on for the first time day one of, like we have a scrimmage August 1st with the jamboree that we're doing.
Yeah,
The GHSA, like the way that the calendar sets up, we're not allowed to put on pads until that Monday, 4 days before the scrimmage. Well, now we've had a little bit of an acclimation, I feel
yeah,
like, with this padded camp where it's not the first time we're not putting on the pads for the first time 4 days before we go play in a scrimmage game, which I think is a benefit too. So that's exciting. We've got our youth kids camp coming up the 21st through the 23rd. That will be Monday through Wednesday. If your future Colt has not signed up, I've tagged all the elementary schools on social media from our accounts. So I appreciate some of the elementary schools sharing that. I think we've had a decent amount registered to this point, but you can still get that pre-registration done all the way up through the Monday, the 14th before. And if you get that pre-registration done, your kid will be eligible to get a nice little goodie bag this year. I think last year we did the little track bags with our new Creek logo in the back. We're still at this point. We'll have something for them, but we're determining what that's going to be this year. But that's a fun time for the kids to come out. That's grades first through rising sixth grade.
yeah. That's exciting this year because we made that change. In the past we've done, I think, third through eighth, but with us doing so much more with our middle school this year, with the spring practice, felt like maybe we can back off of that with them and focus more on the younger kids because I've gotten some feedback from some parents. Really, their kids really wanted to go. They wanted their kids to be there. So we're excited about that to have some of those younger guys in there. It's a great way to get our community involved and build that community and get those guys ready to go right into football season. And then, the big part we try to remind them of if they come, we want them to wear those camp shirts that we give out and come to kick off at the creek and lead us out for our scrimmage that night.
Yeah, which will be that first Monday that we're in pads. Pardon me on the date. I know we play a scrimmage on August 1st, that Friday. So I had to, whatever that Monday is,
28th, I believe.
28. Yeah, that'll be our kickoff at the creek. We'll post graphics about it coming
Yeah.
up soon. But if you haven't been out, this will be our third annual kickoff at the creek. It's been a really big success the last couple of years. We've got food vendors, varsity scrimmage out there, blow up slides, Kona ice. I think we had one of our local Mexican restaurants came out with their food truck, Trinity Barbecue, I want to say was
Yeah.
there last year. Just a really fun family atmosphere. So that's been a huge success. So we would love for that to continue to grow. But yeah, so that's coming up. Kids camp's coming up, and then from the standpoint of kind of deadlines coming up here or things opening up, we've got corporate sponsors. If you're interested in doing that payments are due for that coming up on June 30th. That's kind of when that window closes for that. So if you would like to support our program, that's a great way to do it. We've got tons of radio advertising opportunities. I slashed the prices in half this year, really just trying to give people an affordable option to advertise with Coahulla Creek football and give your business a chance to get your name out there. But then after Dead Week, so after the week of the 4th, we will have season tickets opening up to the public for the first time. We'll have those I'm trying to remember the term that we have, reserved season tickets.
Yep.
We'll have that open. Once those are sold out, which they did sell out for the first time in school history last year, we'll have general admission season tickets open up after that. And, we want as big of a crowd as possible at the Creek this year. Our first home game will be against Chattooga, the week 2. So we'll have them and North Cobb Christian back-to-back weeks, week games 2 and 3. So you'll get a chance to see Coahulla Creek a couple of times in the first few weeks of the season. I'm trying to remember who our other home games are this year. We'll have Ringgold at home. We'll have North Murray and Murray County. So that's all 5. We got to cut three local rivals within our region with North Murray, and Ringgold. North Cobb Christian, who was a state semifinalist last year, pretty quality football program at home. And then Chattooga, who made the playoffs last year and has a couple of defensive linemen who I want to say have offers from Alabama and Texas up front right now. So really good games. This is a good lineup of home games this year. Last year I felt like we wound up with some maybe teams that aren't they're not local. I want to say the closest team we had was LFO at home last year and Northwest, but
the Saturday,
play Saturday at 11 a.m. So that was really the only really good local game that we had, and it wound up getting postponed to Saturday morning. So, Coach, as we wrap up here, what are some final thoughts you have as we get prepared for all this stuff that's coming up here in the next few weeks?
Like you mentioned, you kind of get that timely reset of Dead Week, July 4th, because we do have, other sports going on in June. We're going to get that off week. And once we come back from that, those other sports are done for the summer and it's football time. And, everything that we just talked about right there, it kind of goes along with your video you did for NWGA football. Football's back. And, we're trying to get people turned up and include in and involved in any way that they can possibly be. Get our community involved, because that's ultimately what with us getting our guys ready to play and our coaching staff and our team, and then the community's got to be right behind it. That's the whole deal, because it is an event on a Friday night that brings the whole Colt country together and our community together, and that's what we want it to be.
Yeah, I've got some exciting stuff planned for our video shoots this year. I'm really excited for those ideas and plans to come to fruition, and y'all see that. Got some new equipment that I'm gonna be working with this year, so really excited about the social media standpoint. Going to do some things. This is going into year 3. I got some new things we're going to be doing with that, so really excited for everyone to see that. And Coach, thank you for your time. Happy 4th to Colt Country. We'll catch up probably sometime in July. I figure we'll do one of these at least before we get into some of the preseason kind of more traditional previews that we do every year in a more formal setting. But Coach, thank you for your time. Happy Independence Day, Colt Country. We'll catch up next time. This has been CreekCast.